So Chairman, whenever you want to call the meeting to order, we should be.
Well, since we're a little bit behind time, we'll call the meeting to order right now. The first order of business is call to the public. Is there anybody wishing to speak?
I do not see anyone else on or trying to get on, Commissioner.
Okay, well, we have a short agenda, so we'll have another opportunity coming up. The one item of business is the COVID-19 discussion. And I don't know if you have comments to make on that, or Frank, if you have questions or comments.
I do have some comments to make. Did you say to Commissioner Engler, or you
No.
want me to go
Oh,
ahead?
Commissioner Engler, yes. But you can go ahead.
I'll wait to have to make my comments because I see.
It may already be covered.
Okay, I'll see if I cover it. So the biggest thing I wanted to talk to the commissioners about are the three grants that we are applying for right now through the CARES Act funding that's come from the federal government down to the states. There are two grants that have to do with premium pay for our frontline workers during COVID, and the other grant has to do with payroll reimbursement. They're all first come, first serve grants. Two of them are due this Friday. The 911 dispatcher premium pay is due, I believe, in September, but we are trying to get those out as soon as possible because of the first come, first serve basis. The payroll grant is actually for any law enforcement personnel, 911 dispatchers, any staff we had that focused their work in April and May on mitigating COVID. And we can take all of those payroll and fringe expenses in the months of April and May and apply for reimbursement. We're trying to wrap our heads around what that number is going to be. We'll have that number yet today. And I'm hoping to apply hopefully today. As I understand, it's a lengthy application, about 15 pages, but we are working through that. As long as we've got the numbers today, we should be able to submit. We have been recently contacted by the health department because they're not certain that they're an eligible entity to apply for this grant. As you can imagine, it's for public safety and public health payroll. So they have a lot to gain from seeking this reimbursement too from April and May, but it's not clear that they're an eligible applicant. The county can apply perhaps on their behalf. So we are working with them to maybe put their numbers in with ours and seek reimbursement on their behalf through us. Clearly we want to do that for them if they're not eligible on their own.
Nicole, I have a question.
Yes.
If we include their figures into the county figures, that wouldn't cause the whole counties to be rejected. I mean, if there's an issue with those figures, would they just reject that portion of the grant app?
I would believe so. I would believe it'd be just that portion that they would reject. When we apply, it's not a big dollar amount necessarily. We say who the employee is, what job title they have, and how much payroll and fringes apply to them. So it is specific to the employee. So I would think if they had any issue, they could drill down to the specific issue without jeopardizing reimbursement on the other.
Okay, thank you.
Great question. Great question. The premium pay grants, again, they're very different. One is for public safety law enforcement. One is for the 911 dispatchers. I do have lists from Director Griffiths at 911 and Sheriff Maine regarding who on their staff would be eligible for this premium pay for the frontline workers. Those lists, they've each given me what they think each employee should receive. The grant is up to $1,000 per employee. We don't have to pay the $1,000 to the employee before we apply, but the application has to state when we are going to pay it. And so we have to pay it by September 30 of this year. It can't have been a budgeted expense that we were going to pay. And we won't know if we're getting reimbursed for it or the grant would be funded until November. So this is a situation where we would have to pay it and then not know whether we were getting reimbursed or not. In my estimation, it's about a $75,000 risk to the county. So if we were to apply for this and say, yes, we're going to pay it. I do believe we will have to pay it if we apply. We're saying we're going to. We may or may not get reimbursed. It's a first come, first serve. The law enforcement applications are due this Friday. The 911, I think, are due in September. We would look to apply for both of those yet this week. So we're, hopefully in the running. But I just kind of wanted to talk to you about your thoughts on and your comfort level on that risk. We've not talked about premium pay, and these are union groups. These are collective bargaining agreements. Before I apply, I'll definitely be talking to the county attorney to get her opinion on everything. But I do feel like if we don't take advantage of this opportunity to provide this, that there will be an ask from these union groups for something. And at that time, we may not have the opportunity to be reimbursed. So.
Will that require an amendment to the budget, or how would that be? How would you take the money out and then have to put it back in later? Or does that require board action on that? Or can it be done within the current budget of the sheriffs or whoever's going to get the money?
Mm-hmm. We could do it within the current budget. We would have to, if we were to increase, if we were able to decrease an expense in the sheriff's department, say, and then we would increase this offsetting expense so that there was a net zero, then that would not have to go to the board. If we were just going to say, yes, let's pay this with no reimbursement or no offsetting lowering of another expense, then that kind of action would have to go to the board.
Well, my gut feeling is that we go ahead and pay that and put it into the application and submit it. It's one commissioner. I think the people that work in those positions have a difficult job, and if there's an opportunity to provide a little additional pay for that hazardous duty, we should do it.
Yeah, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I guess sure what the chances of getting that, but I know if we don't apply for it, we do not get it. So
exactly, it's not the best scenario. We're being reactive. We're not able to sit here and consider a premium pay policy before the pandemic. Here we are in it, and here we are up against a deadline. So it's clearly not the ideal time to really be vetting this out. But I feel like there's money on the table for our employees, and they certainly stepped up, and we certainly ought to try for it.
now, how would that affect the union contract? Would that have to be changed, or would they have to agree to it, or would you have to go back to the bargaining, or is that what you got to talk to the lawyer about? I guess
Those are a few of the
Okay.
questions I have for the attorney.
Okay.
Sure, certainly.
Okay.
Mhm. Because to be quite clear, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds, if you will,
Yeah.
certainly, but these aren't all union employees at the sheriff's department. They aren't all union employees at 911 even. And so I do not want to go down a path of a precedent that is dangerous to set for anyone who is non-union.
Now, is this just available to the 911 and the sheriffs, or the definition of it essential worker? I'm not sure.
Pretty clear on how strict they've been as to who it applies to. It would only be those falling under the sheriff's umbrella. Now, corrections officers would apply. or would be eligible, but it's just those very, very specific. In fact, in the application, once you type in the name of the individual, there's a drop-down list, and there's only certain things that you can, either it's a dispatcher or it's a law enforcement officer, it's a corrections officer, public, that type of thing. So we can't stretch that one. The payroll one, I believe, we are going beyond, because building and ground staff in April and May were solely focused on mitigating COVID. That's absolutely what they were doing throughout our building. So on the payroll one, we were able to go beyond the public safety aspect, but not for the premium pay ones. So again, I apologize for having to have that conversation in this fashion. I'd much rather have those things, on the front end, but here we are. More on the CARES Act funding. There is a pot of money that apparently is coming to us with no application. Because the state has elected to cut the August state shared revenue payments to us and save $97 million. They say that's okay because we're going to replace it with 150 million. This sounds really good. And they're going to divvy that out just how they had divvied out state sharing revenue payments. They're using the same formula. So their theory is they're not paying us our August payment. However, we're supposed to get 1.5 times from this CARES Act funding. So this is a different pool of money than the payroll grant, different pool of money than the premium pay. So fingers crossed on that, but one thing is clear, we're not getting our August state revenue sharing payment. I always get worried when they talk about replacement revenue at the state level.
Well, I attended the Co-Township meeting last night, and they reported they received, it must have been their June, July revenue sharing payment, which is based on property tax revenues to the state. Is that true?
I think it's not the property tax.
Not property
revenue,
tax, sales tax.
Yes.
I misspoke.
Yes.
But with it, that must have been the June and July payment then to the townships.
Yes, and I think that their revenue sharing is constitutional to where ours is the statutory. So they can take it away from us. They don't have to. They're not obligated to send it to us. But I believe cities, villages, and townships, they have to.
Constitutional, okay.
So they're just not going to get that 1.5 times replacement revenue, I guess.
Well, maybe one time we do a little bit better then.
Well, we'll see, huh? But thank you for that report. That's good to know. Good to know they're receiving that. As far as I guess that's it as far as the CARES Act funding. As far as COVID-19 in particular, our numbers on the health department website were at 137 this morning. And I'm sure you saw the press releases and the recent upticks, the continued closure of our buildings. And next Tuesday's board meeting, I know Chairman had hoped that it would be in person. We will likely have a closed session at that meeting. And with the buildings still being closed to the public, it just didn't seem responsible to hold a meeting in person. And so we will be having the July 21st board meeting on Zoom as well. There is a function in Zoom called the breakout room that allows us to put commissioners, if there is a closed session, into a room where the rest of the meeting attendees cannot see or hear you. So we're going to be practicing that function, and you won't have to do anything that night. You'll just be put in a room. I have a lot of trust in that. I know the courts have gone to that for, their hearings, and they use the breakout rooms for when attorneys and clients need to have a privileged meeting. to me, that's a pretty good show of confidence in that platform for that. So that's how we'll be doing that. I did, this doesn't have really to do with COVID-19, although I bet there'll be a lot of COVID stuff on the agenda. I saw that MAC is having their 2020 annual conference virtually in August, August 18th through the 27th. And I went to sign up for that and noticed that I can sign up, I can register all the commissioners if you're interested in signing up for that. I think it's just a $50 registration fee because of the virtual platform, but wondered if either of you were interested in attending.
I would like to attend.
Yeah, so would I. At
I think
least,
it's going to be a good opportunity.
yeah.
Mhm. Certainly different with the electronic platform, but I would bet that a lot of the things they're going to offer, they'll be able to record. And so it'll be kind of nice because if things don't jive with your schedule, maybe there'll be a recording you can go see after the fact. So, but that's really all I had, Chairman, unless there's questions for me.
Frank, do you have any questions?
Nope, a couple comments, but no questions, so I'll wait.
No, make your comments then.
Well, as you know, we had a couple events to the Conservation District with the electronic waste and hazardous waste. And and I told you before, but there has been no reports of anybody getting the virus through that process. So we haven't. The only negative we've heard is that we ran out of space too early and had to shut it down. So that's the biggest complaint we had. This Sunday, we were scheduled to have a Casey Fest, and we were actually had all the plexiglass up and changed it. There's no, even though we got to change the signs because they all say buffet, but that's gone now. So, but because of what happened up at the lake, Littlefield Lake, there was a big spike. We decided at the last minute to cancel it. So, but we were getting ready to try to have it on a very limited basis. So, and then this whole last week has been, everything kind of went south, was going one direction. So they did back off on that. So they're still planning on having one next month. So we'll see what happens then. Hopefully things will get a better handle on things. So they are still planning on doing the chicken barbecue, but it might be just a drive-through only. So,
Oh, that's a good option. That's sure.
So we've always started last year, they started the drive-through, and this year this year might be all just takeout. So we'll see. Everybody's adapting and trying to come to way around or figure a way to cope with the situation that's handed to us. So that's it.
A lot of the organizations I belong to are adapting too, and it's a big change not to do everything like you've traditionally done, but I guess we're getting by. Hopefully they find some kind of miracle cure for or immunization for it. I don't have any other comments dealing with COVID-19. We'll do a call to the public again.
There's no public, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Before I call adjournment, once you close the meeting, I do have a question for you on Margaret. So
Very good. Okay,
Okay.
so give me just a moment here and yeah, please
We'll
stay on and
adjourn
I'll
the
let
meeting.
you know.
Adjourn?
yes,
Being adjourned? Okay, great. Got it.
all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Make sure we cover all our bases.